Little Legends Podcast is a Prediction Esports production. Support us by subscribing to the Prediction Esports Podcast channel on your favorite podcast provider. Hey guys, welcome back to Little Legends Podcast, episode number 27. I am your host, Blevins. Joining me as always is my lovely and wonderful co-host, Boop. What's up, buddy?
It's going good. A more muted intro to the script. I could feel the energy being held. But I thought you were gonna do like a crazy like radio. I thought you were gonna lean into it.
Oh, I was going to, and I forgot to do that until literally right this second. So
yeah, that makes sense.
We'll save it. We'll save it. We'll see.
We'll save it for
We'll see.
another time. We'll let people forget, and then in 2.5 weeks, it'll just be like wah, 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 wah.
Wait, so are we going to do an episode and a half? We'll get into that in a second because we have a wonderful guest on the show as well. We also are joined by none other than Striving Light. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I'm happy to be here. And no, I mean, we've been in call for a bit already, so.
That's true. We are very... what's the word? Slow at getting things ready because Boop and I chit chat too much. We'd be terrible seventh graders. We would.
Oh my God, I would have totally hung out with you in seventh grade too.
You think so?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Because you probably if we hung out, that means you probably were in band.
No,
right? Not real life you. Not real life you.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
if we were to have seen each other, that's
okay.
the vehicle it probably would have been. You probably would have been low brass with me. We probably because you could be a good tuba player.
I don't even know how to respond to that. So
is that a compliment?
Is it?
It's certain.
No one will
if
know.
Boop is saying it, it definitely isn't a compliment.
No,
if he's saying
it's
it to me, it's definitely not a compliment. But we are going to be talking about some great TFT stuff. We're also going to be getting a little bit deeper into the background of Striving Light. So those of you who are new, you'll be able to find out a little bit more about her and the awesome things that she's doing in the TFT world. But before we do that, we of course have our little bit of housekeeping that I will run through ever so quickly, as I practice this every single week. As you guys know, we are a Prediction Esports Podcast, PREDICTION. Make sure you are following and subscribe to them on iTunes, Spotify, and all of the great podcast places. It is super helpful for us if you subscribe to that feed as well as our feed. Double it up. Just, you know what? Just do it. Just, to quote the philosopher Nike, just do it. And while you're there, please leave us a review. We are always in need of more iTunes reviews. They're always very, very helpful. So make sure you are doing that. And do yourselves a favor, go to the Discord, discord.me/LegendsPodcast. We've got all sorts of stuff there. All of the cool kids are there. Striving Light's there. Boop is there. I'm there. You've got game night legends like Sphinx, Jimmy the Shovel. Just everyone that you hear us refer to every week is there. And we do game nights on Fridays, though they aren't this Friday because of Valentine's Day. Probably do it on Saturday, but we're not committed to that yet. It'll be at some point. We'll do game night this weekend, but make sure you're there. Discord.me/LegendsPodcast. We are also streaming game nights at twitch.tv/GiantSlayerTV. So if you want to check out the old VODs and see all of the just crazy antics that we have every week, because it is, some games we play competitive, and then sometimes we literally do a wacky game format that Boop came up with. So,
well, I always really like it because it's hard for me because unfortunately that is the only other time I can play D&D is on Fridays, right? So I try to split my time. So what's really funny is I come in, I feel like for an hour for 2 games, and I just try to leave as much of a mark as possible. So when I leave, people want to come back and be like, what is Boop? Boobasaurus 6969.
When we play,
Gonna do next.
What is Boobasaurus 6969 going to do next? Who knows? And guys, if you're watching in video world, you can see these awesome Ready for Battle stickers. You can get those as well as shirts and mugs and anything that Designed by Humans has on their website with that awesome design, the Ready for Battle Jack's design over at the Designed by Humans page for the Legends podcast. The link to which is in the description. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk some TFT, and we'll start off the show like we normally do by talking about our week in TFT, and we will start off with our guest. Driving Light, how was your week in TFT?
Well, I've been on a mini vacation, so this week I finally got back into the grind a little bit.
Nice.
Not bad. I like this patch a lot. I mean, I took a huge break due to Blender, server with friends, and patching to correct Blender, patching to correct server with friends didn't work for those. So that was like a solid month that I gotta say I started cheating on TFT a little bit with other games. But it seems we're all Valentine's Day coming back up. I feel my love back for TFT, so I'm jumping into it, and it's been good. I climbed my Smurf account from Plat 4 to Plat 1. So trying to get that to Masters, both accounts back to Charlie would be amazing by set 3. So this week's been good for me. I'm liking this patch. It's been fun.
Man, your Smurf is probably higher than my main account right now. That's why I am in the podcast chair, not in the pro player chair.
Those who can't do podcasts. Something that the great philosopher Nike once said.
Yes, that is true. I remember that when I was a philosophy major. Boop, how was your week in TFT?
It was really good up until today, up until a couple hours ago. So I was using a little legend that has now become kind of like Beetlejuice or Voldemort to me, where I dropped a bunch of divisions after switching over to it because I liked one of the emotes.
Wait, hold on a second. If it was like Voldemort, wouldn't it be like a really super powerful little legend?
Oh, well,
Beetlejuice is also pretty powerful.
Name. I don't want to bring it here. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm wondering which one it is. Is it the Silverwing? It's a Silverwing, isn't it?
And I say 10 games, I probably only top 4, 3 of them.
Ooh.
And then I switched over to Kiki, and I didn't get under top 4 for like 3 days.
Oh yeah, Kiki is top
tier. So Kiki obviously made me better at the game.
Yeah,
and that's the most obvious answer I could come up with. And then still trying to do that climb. It's only been the last like couple of weeks where I could really grind and play TFT and study and get all this stuff going outside of like the because we as casters, we need to like learn all the strategies,
right.
And sometimes when you're playing, it's hard to like dive in and be like, okay, this is how you do it, right? And this is the decision I need to make right now. It's just I was talking about that with one of my friends yesterday, which is like it's so crazy that when I was watching her, I could point out like everything that she was doing poorly, but when I play, I can't find those same mistakes.
Right.
The human brain is an interesting thing.
Oh yeah, when you're birding a match, it is always so much easier to point out the mistakes and be like, oh, this guy's an idiot. How did he not know to do that? And then I play and I'm like, stop stream and we're back into gold. So for me, I've been teetering still. I have not fallen out of Plat 1, which I'm very happy for, but I had a little bit of a rough week. I played, so I have, and I was talking about this in the pre-show. I have this really bad I have 2 really bad habits. The first of which is I will just not scout. And now I will preface this with, I know that it is absolutely critical to scout and that you need to scout it. It is extremely, extremely helpful. So don't do this at home. But what I do is I get into this mindset of like, oh well, if I started a comp and I don't look and see that there's 3 other people doing it, then I just got unlucky when I don't get my units. I don't. It's not my fault that I didn't scout and see that 3 people were also going berserkers. Although berserkers, I've not had. Even when it was uncontested, I did not have very much success with berserkers this patch so far. But I did find a little bit of success with the Yasuo comp. He just melts people.
Yeah. So what do you think of the Yasuo right now? Are we getting into like problematic territory? Because honestly, it's when you have the Yasuo, it's fun. But when you're against it, it's desk slamming worthy sometimes.
Yeah.
So the thing with the Yasuo, I think there was such a craze around it just because you see this one guy literally 1v9 the world, straight tier
Yeah.
carry, and it just feels detrimental. Nowadays, now that people's been spamming it a lot more, you just have to play around it. So don't stack all 3 items onto your carry, do 2. Or you play around with the hexes actually feel so much more important this patch because of the fact that hex counts as an item. So like I was watching the top EU player, and he literally just threw a bow on his Singe after Raptors because he was just like, I need this Yasuo to go after the Singe instead. Everyone was questioning and marking him at first. It was just like, bow on Singe? Yeah, no, he can't attack. But after he reasoned that and seeing how popular the Yasuo carry comp is, that made a lot of sense. So Crystal is super good. And then with the itemization changing, Yasuo carry is strong. But I don't know if it's truly like a S tier comp that's guaranteed to win because you do have to hit like perfect items, GA, Bloodthirster, Hands of Justice, and then you gotta hit. There's really no units you can alternate out, really.
Yeah. So I have another quick question before we move on, because something that you said is S tier, and I don't know why it has never popped up before because we've used that term before. But in TFT, what would classify an S tier comp between one of these two things, right? Where kind of do you fall? Is it a comp that can win, like maybe a good amount of lobbies, right, but is a little bit riskier? Or is it a comp that can continuously top 4, right? Which would you consider S tier?
So something I did a long time is always make tier list videos, and so at least my criteria is always consistency. So for me, if let's just say that back when the meta first started, Ocean Mage, right? Consistent top 4 no matter what. And I might be a little biased because I spammed all of the
like
Challenger.
the Ocean Mage queen.
That was my comp for Challenger. And so that is S tier for me versus let's just say like in this meta now, a composition like Rangers, I think is towards the A tier due to the fact that it is something that can definitely get you to first, but I've also seen so many people fail and go ape with it.
Yeah.
So due to that inconsistency, it would be lower on my tier. So every time I look for S tier, I look for what's consistent to top 4. Berserkers back then, not this current meta, was a guaranteed top 4. So that lands it to pretty high in the tier. Not a first place comp, sure, but if he gets you top 4, you're gaining LP, so we take those.
True. Yeah, that is a really interesting because like it's not really like that in any other game, right? Because it's just like tier list is pretty cut and dry. It's like, is this going to get you a lot of wins? And it's like, well, what actually is a win in TFT? Because you do,
yeah. Well, so I always bring this up. So in tennis, there is a player a while ago. She just retired at the Australian Open, named Caroline Wozniacki. It's not a last name you forget, but there's a big controversy because she was the #1 ranked player because she had made like quarters and semis and all of the Grand Slams, but she never won one.
Ooh,
right? So like there was like a really big argument as like, does she deserve to be #1? She's by far the most consistent player on tour, right? She has the most points, but she's never won a major tournament, right? So what does that mean? And I think TFT can kind of fall under the same type of argument, right? It's just like there's always going to be that. So it's interesting to me to see where people fall on that line, right?
I think I have a solution for this conundrum that I just thought of. Okay, so S tier is specifically can get first places, and outside of the tier list, but still like maybe parallel or adjacent to the tier list is what we call the bridesmaids list, where it's always can always top 4 but never wins. Always the bridesmaid. Never
yeah, because can a comp truly be S tier if it never wins, but will get you top 4 98% of the time, right? Like that's the major question for me. I would
It's
love to
really a
hear.
political reason. It's really political, or maybe not political, but it's like optics and marketing as to what you want it to be. Because it's like, well, think about it. Because if maybe we, well, this is the beginning of the show. We've got time. We've got time to go into it. If a comp gets you like first place 50% of the time, but the other 50% is eighth place, what does that net you in 10 games? Versus if a comp gets you fourth place every single time in those 10 games, what gives you more? There's probably a lot of variables about that, but like, I
And
don't
it
know.
depends on ranking as well. Like there
Sure.
are certain comps that like are spammed just consistently in high
Yeah.
ranks, versus in lower ranks you might see like a lot more variation. So
Mhm.
you can't always just use the same comp because you're against different comps at lower elo versus higher elo as
Right.
well to a certain degree.
Yeah. You also probably shouldn't use the same comp every time because you're gonna get screwed over. And like, there's like the game does give you some direction, even when I choose to ignore that, and just go hyper roll woodlands every single time because I'm an idiot. But that's another discussion to have maybe at a later time. But let's get back to the task on hand. And striving light, I'm curious. I know a little bit about your gaming background, but just tell us a little bit about how you got into gaming. What your sort of background is in terms of competitive gaming, because obviously now you're doing a lot in TFT, streaming and playing. So tell us how you got here.
So gaming in general, without the competitiveness, just ever since I was a kid, my entire family, every single cousin is a nerd. Or so literally Christmas, Thanksgiving, anytime we get together, they're showcasing new games to me, making me play new games,
Mhm.
etc. Even with my uncle, surprisingly, like when I was young, they would play Resident Evil and hand the control to me, which scarred me a little bit in life. But so that's something I grew up with ever since a child. So gaming was just like a natural thing you do,
Mhm.
even. In terms of competitiveness, I actually never really been a competitive player. I've always just like, I hit gold, I'm happy. I hit diamond,
Mhm.
I'm happy. Like I just kind of like sail along. A little bit competitive came out during Hearthstone with
Mhm.
leaderboards and arena, but that was really more due to the community and just starting
Yeah.
stream and everyone telling me like, hey, like you're good at arena, why don't you ever go for leaderboard? I was just like, that
Mhm.
requires me to play 30 games a month, and which was
That's
a
a
lot.
lot of games. Yeah.
Oh,
Games.
yeah.
So what really brought me, which I know is a conversation for a little bit later, but Twitch Rivals was just like
Yes.
an attempt for me, a little sneak peek to see what it's like, and I became addicted, I gotta say,
Mhm.
afterwards. I was just like, all right, I'm grinding, I'm doing this. Let's get
This is
into this
happening.
esports scene. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, that's where I found out about you because we covered that tournament, and obviously you were in you top 16, how did I
It
forget?
was I got into the finals, which is top 32, and
Okay,
then I believe my final rank was number 24.
okay, but yeah, made it to the finals of Twitch Rivals, and we obviously were covering that event, and I remember because I'm crazy when it comes to these types of things. I did this with Overwatch when I started the podcast. I did it with TFT. I'm doing it with Legends of Runeterra now. Anyone who does anything in the scene, I'm just like follow, like look into these people, see who they are. And it was funny because I saw you from Twitch Rivals, and then uh, unrelated to that, Eric Thomas, who's a friend of the show, a streamer, and is a game night regular, was like, "Oh yeah, I know Risa from Hearthstone." I'm like, "Oh cool." And then one thing led to another, and Giant Slayer and all this stuff, and now you're here on
That's
the
how
show.
your mom and I met. One thing led to
Yeah, one
another,
thing.
and
Yeah, one thing led to another, but yeah, just crazy how the internet world works. But on the back to the Twitch Rivals event, I mean, what was that like playing in that event? Because that was obviously a live event, and TFT was still. I mean, that was trying to think of the timing on that. That was still set 1, right? Yeah, that was still set
Yep,
1.
that was that one. That was when Sparring Gloves just came out, so we were all freaking out because no one.
Yes.
It was
I
on a
remember that.
Friday. No one played a new patch because everyone's on their
Yes.
flights to TwitchCon, and we are just like, "Oh my god, mittens! Like, what is this? Like Yordles?" And like the
Yes.
whole concept was crazy.
Mhm.
I have to say it was super nerve wracking. Honestly, we didn't know what to look for it because there wasn't really any tournament for TFT really back then, especially in set 1.
Mhm.
And so Twitch Rivals was such a big thing for us. The idea was that I gave up on the tournament, honestly, like going into it. I didn't expect to make it. One of my viewers was just like,
just casually make it to the finals. I gave up on that one.
like, I think that's better for me though. When I set low expectations for things, I
Right.
end up doing better than when I'm just like, I am the best in the world and I got this. I'll end up 8th
Right.
every single
You're-
time.
you're not.
So I literally today was watching a video, and the lady goes as a joke, you know, you never fail if you keep your expectations low.
Yep,
So I
exactly.
guess you
You're
guys,
saying-
I guess you guys went to the same school
You're
of
not-
philosophy.
You're not.
We did it. I can relate with her.
You're not Miss Havisham. You don't have great expectations. Shout outs to all the Charles Dickens fans that got that reference, by the way. And shout outs to that just exasperated sigh that Boop gives every time I make a deep cut CD reference. But sorry, we cut you off. Anyways, back to the match. What about so you kind of, I mean, it was a new environment. It was, I mean, for what it's worth, a lot of that tournament was kind of cobbled together. It was still like, I mean, it was at TwitchCon, so it's like, do you want to go to play the tournament for 8 hours, or do you want to actually experience the con? So,
Well, I did have a 3-day pass. So Friday, I got to
okay.
explore the convention. It wasn't that big of a convention, so you can honestly look at it all in one day. But Saturday, yeah, the tournament was 10 hours, and this is someone who didn't make it to a grand final, so I can't imagine someone who made it there.
Right.
There was the automatically invited players. I
Mhm.
believe there was 8 players that was automatic invited to the finals, meaning
Mhm.
there was only 24 spots that people can play into, which is why I also gave up because I knew who were the finalists. Like there was people like Skara, Disguised, Becca, Keen, and so they were all challenger. And for me, I was Diamond 4 with 0 LP. And I made sure not to play any more games before I left for TwitchCon because I was like, I don't want to be that one person that's not even Diamond.
Right.
So I
The
was
one
like,
flat
let me hit at least Diamond and just not touch any games. So when I made it to the finals, yeah, one of my first lobby was Skara, Kibler, Keen, and it was just like Challenger, 500 LP, Challenger, 1000 LP.
Yep.
And then you saw Diamond 4, 0 LP, and people were like, is this a Smurf? And I was just like, no.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. I lost my info for my other account. It's locked. I can't get to it.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I was just shaking the entire time, just because in general I just never been into any tournaments as well. So it was both combined. Big streamers I admired, never been to a tournament, and even before that, there was a Twitch Rivals conference room, and in the conference room, kind of like all the partners were in like one table together. And then like I had my own little table that I was just like, that looks like the loser table where I could just sit and chill and talk to no one. So I'm gonna go there. And obviously people were really friendly. There was other partners and people that came up and talked to me eventually. But it was just the whole setting was just felt very foreign to me. And unfortunately there wasn't any food really throughout those 10-12 hours. There was just Doritos because that was the sponsor.
That's fine.
But I did not feel like stocking all Doritos for the match.
Yeah, that's man, everyone's
I have to
looking
remember
pretty
that people,
orange.
Yeah, people don't like Doritos as much as I like Doritos. I have to remind myself of that.
It's not even a liking. It's a like you're just gonna be exhausted if you're fueling.
Yeah, I'll be
yourself on
dehydrated
Doritos
a
and
little bit.
dehydrated, and you're gonna like. And also, like, man, I want to see the aftermath of that because those keyboards and mice must have just been crusty after that tournament.
Ew, that's gross.
Ruined the tournament for me now.
I mean-
I know. Why would you even say
What do you?
that?
It's
That's like
it's from the
I don't
Dorito
need-
crust.
I don't need to know.
Okay, Boop, you are the last person to be able to complain about talking about gross things. That is nothing compared to.
I don't think people were shoving Doritos during the tournament, though. I think they were eating it in the break room. to be fair. But yeah, so out of all of it, I think the funniest part was just since I was so nervous, I was just chugging water after water,
Yeah.
which ended up me having to use the restroom, right?
Right.
And the format, unfortunately, wasn't that stabilized. Where like after a game, there was like a 30-minute waiting period between one game to another.
Okay.
But when I would ask the staff, like they weren't sure. They weren't sure if it was something that they were starting in a minute or 30 minutes
Right.
later. So they would always be like, let me double check to see if we use the restroom. So it's awkward because I'm streaming. I'm just like, I feel like I'm like in a classroom. I'm like asking for permission right now. I'm waiting for my hall pass. And then they would tell me, okay, run to the bathroom. And I just did that throughout the
Jeez.
tournament. Like I think I went to a restroom maybe twice or 3 times throughout the 10 hours. And each time like they had me run there, run back. And then waited like 30, 45 minutes for the next match, even though I probably could have walked to the bathroom.
Okay,
That's
tournament
crazy.
staffs of the world. If that is something to factor in, is bathroom breaks for your players, because that is
Well, it's so funny. It's so hard to be a tournament admin.
Sure.
As someone who I've been in that world and I've experienced some of the great ones and some of the not so great ones, right? Ones that have made me cast for 12 hours versus ones that made sure that everything was okay. And sometimes it's hard to think about. Okay, so a Hearthstone match is usually this long, but you don't think about but sometimes, like, remember way back in the day the Freeze Mage versus Freeze Mage match,
oh yeah.
like back during Ngoro.
Mm-hmm.
Like a 45-minute match.
Yeah,
potentially.
exactly. And then they don't think about, okay, and then you have to have a break in between each one, right?
Right.
These 1-minute intervals start adding up over 16, 24, 200 players.
Right.
And it's not necessarily what you want. But when you don't think about that, then that's when you get no bathroom breaks, right? They think it's just so easy. Oh, they'll have time, right? But you got to plan. You got to plan it out. So important.
That's part of the reason.
The staff has so many Twitch Rivals event that they had to do. Like there was a League of Legends one ongoing during the preliminaries of the TFT one.
Oh wow.
So it was literally during the League of Legends finals for Twitch Rivals while I was playing through the first 2-4 games of the beginning. So due to that, I can definitely see like the confusion of helping 2 different Twitch Rivals event going on.
Oh yeah, the tournament. I mean, nothing against the tournament staff themselves, because they're just doing their jobs. It's just like at an admin side, it's just little things that you need to think of. It's you got to factor in for the weight of the books. Deep cut How I Met Your Mother reference there. But Boop is dying over here. I don't know if it's from the references or from the Doritos he's inhaling. The Doritos he's inhaling off camera.
It can be both. I do love my son. So it's actually been super interesting to kind of hear the kind of like the plight of the player, though, right? I think what you explained is something that a lot of people in a lot of different gaming worlds, especially up and coming games, have kind of had to deal with, right? They had to deal with the beginning stages. Things don't start with augmented reality opening ceremonies, like for Worlds, but for TFT, it's really cool to see. All right, this is what the beginning is, and it must be cool to be a part of that. Right, the beginning of something. And so what is something that has changed since you even started here? Because I feel like in esports everything's accelerated so quickly, right? What is something that you've already seen change within the community, within the competitive atmosphere, within what you even want to do over your time in TFT so far?
Well, for me, it's a very interesting scenario because I went from a front-face tournament participant and content creator to now a coordinator for tournaments now. So I see things in a completely different perspective now. It's no longer like, oh, let me look at the esports scene as a player now. What can I join? What can I play? Now I'm just like, what can I create for these players? And at least from my end, it seems like the competitive scene for TFT has really slowed down. There was Twitch Rivals, and then there was the All-Stars Red Bull Invitationals. And after that, it kind of just went poof. There was mini tournaments here and there. There was the fandom one, which is a little bit bigger, but besides that one, the TFT competitive scene has been lacking, and so many players in like the lobby to Discord has just been like begging for some sort of tournament. And even it's funny because like we joke about how like, oh, like if there was like a hot dog or like a Popeyes tournament, people would sign up, and it was like, hell yeah, we would. Like that's how desperate we are. I think Radis made a tweet about that. He's like, damn, all these players just love Popeyes, we might as well make a Popeyes tournament and have a sandwich be the reward. So
if the players are willing to play on camera for a Popeye sandwich, I will personally put that on.
Blevins hosting tournament.
Yeah, I'll,
Yeah,
you know
we'll
what?
do the little Legends tournament with a $15 gift certificate to Popeyes. That's
No. I need to hand deliver that sandwich.
There we go. Blevins will fly to you.
You know, for some reason, I imagined you on like a little old time. You know, in Futurama, they have those like bikes that fly in the air. You know, the Da Vinci episode. Do you remember this?
Yeah, that's what gyrocopter.
Like,
the gyrocopter.
yeah, that you're like riding on the gyrocopter, and then you just drop the.
No, I was thinking more like Wizard of Oz, the Wizard and Wizard of Oz going in a hot air balloon across the country, like delivering tournament-winning Popeye sandwiches.
Spot the Blev. Dude, that's viral.
Oh, there he
that's
is.
viral right
That would give me an excuse to start a hot air balloon and a top hat budget. That's really what my goals in life have been. But speaking of goals, see, I brought it back. Talk to us about what sort of your goals are in the near term with TFT and maybe even in the longer term, and what you see as sort of the future of TFT.
Well, for TFT, one of my biggest goal right now is to bring back that competitive spirit for players. That's the short-term goal that we're going to expand to long-term for sure. Exciting news, first thing first, Rising is turned into a weekly basis now. And so I told that to all those challenger players. And surprisingly, Rising... Fight Night, yes. Fight Night first started off the concept with Rising was that like we were just gonna give like plat players, diamond players, like every player to just like play, because we didn't expect anyone like in the Charlie level who would be interested in like such a small little tournament like this. But we were completely wrong. All the challenger players were just like, no, sign me up, I want to play. Like I said, there was one spot open on this coming Thursday's tournament, and like 5 challenger players was like, I want in. I was like, oh my, like I didn't expect this. So I think right now we changed the concept now that like Rising's just gonna be this like weekly fun tournament where it's just kind of bragging rights, and it's a best of 4, very simple night for them to just win $100 and then get to come back next week and defend their title. And I think that concept has been kind of a little bit exciting for players. And obviously we have a very big tournament coming up sometime in March, ideally. And so we are really excited to announce that. And besides those goals, though, just creating content for TFT outside of even competitiveness, we have... I just wish things are confirmed right now so I could like talk about it. But we do have a very big show planned with potentially big names that we love working with. So we will see. We're still on the stages working with it, but hopefully we can announce those news soon and just make a bunch of content for TFT, live it up again. Set 3's coming out, perfect timing. Big tournaments, mobile. Big shows. Yeah, mobile's coming, spectator mode, fingers crossed, coming around same time.
We're hoping. We'll make our life a lot
easier. At this point. Yeah. That's really exciting, and it's cool that the organization's putting in the effort and intent on building that community. And whatever, you know, I've only been a part of that community for a little while since TFT, ever since I met Jules. And
you're referring to the GiantSlayerTV community, but I don't know if we actually said it.
Oh yes, GiantSlayerTV.
That's what we should. Yeah, that's what we should probably say.
Jules fires me right after this. She's just like, you didn't say the name one time.
I just got a text from Jules that says I have to have a really awkward conversation on air. So Risa,
she's gonna make.
If you
she's gonna make like a flat, like one of those like latex or resin flowers that says you're fired on it.
At least, you know, I would hang that up.
That would be a really pretty gift.
Yeah, best way to get fired ever. No, but like I think the reason why you got so much attention was because everyone loves playing with each other, right? This community, and I've been a part of a couple gaming communities. I was a big fighting game guy back in the day. Then Hearthstone, Overwatch, League of Legends, of everything. This one's like everyone's so nice.
True.
it's so great to see, and everyone plays with each other, and everyone just wants TFT to do well, right? It's like it's like we were the runt of the family that no one expected to be as successful as they are. Now it's time for us to go out and make our own money, and we're going to help each other to do that. And I think that's a really awesome thing about this community in general. Why we love working with people like Giant Slayer and you and everyone else involved, because you guys have such a major part in that community building, and you personally, because you're the one dealing with the content.
Yeah, it's just been it's been crazy because obviously I've done I mean you guys have seen it. We've done a lot of work with Giant Slayer, from the fight nights to the videos, and Risa, you obviously have been behind a lot of that. So I mean, what has it been like? I mean, we're doing what, 2 videos a week, and then the tournaments. It's just like it's a lot of stuff going on. Like right now, like you mentioned, there's not a lot of other tournaments going on, but like Giant Slayer is putting out a ton of content on a weekly basis. What has it been like to just, really, I mean, again, I'm biased, but like in my mind, like you've been sort of carrying this TFT community in a lot of ways on your back.
To speak the truth, it still doesn't feel enough. Like,
I know, right?
like prior to this, when I used to work for a different company, I was releasing 5 videos a week, and I just been like itching to like just throw all that out again. Obviously, need to find the right resources and make sure we plan it right.
Yeah.
But there's that part of me where I'm just like, it's not enough. Like, I want to like start the big tournament now, like start this weekly tournament immediately as well, and then let's just throw a video every single day. So what's been like though, obviously, like taking a step back and just analyzing things, I think for me, before it was just simply pushing out content, and I don't think I truly got to analyze what I was doing. Like, sure, like the videos were doing great, all 5 videos on a weekly basis was just very scheduled. Versus now, we release 1 video and we take the next 3 days and we sit down and we're like, okay, what did we do good? What did we do bad? And working through all that little steps through 1 video has been mind-blowing for me. Like, it's just been teaching me so much to just kind of slow down, and just the concept of working behind the scenes is something I really love as well. Because now I'm hearing from a player's perspective, and I feel like that's something that I never got when I was a player. When I was playing tournaments, I would play in one, and they never asked like how I felt about the tournament or like how to improve, etc. It was just like, okay, you play, goodbye, see you later. And now that I'm the coordinator myself, I feel really happy to be able to reach out and be like, hey, like you just participate, let me know how we can change for the better. And hearing it from each individual's player, I get to see a whole new side. Also, I can relate as well because I used to be a player. So it becomes very interesting to see that dynamic of like, okay, this is something I have the power to change. And so, yeah, sorry, went a little off tangent, but in terms of just producing content, I just want to keep producing more. Like, there's this urge that I think there's so much more we can get out of TFT. And with Set 3 coming up, like, I hope I am able to handle it and get all the resources I need so that we could start producing like 5 videos a week once Set 3 launches.
That would be awesome.
That's an undertaking. You're gonna, and hopefully, and you know what though, that's a great goal for you and the rest of the community to have, because that's the thing. There's so many people out there who don't have goals like that. You know, right? They're like, why isn't my channel growing? Why isn't this and this? And they're not thinking about also what's next. Like, how do I get from A to C? Right? B can be an incredible journey, right? But you have to be getting to C somehow. And it's good that you guys are thinking like that. So I think it's in good hands.
Oh, thank you. I think there's a huge difference between a content creator and being a coordinator as well. Like when I was a content creator, that kind of mentality where it's just like, I know like to grow I need to stream every day, same time, can't suddenly like play TFT one day and then you play Walking Dead the next. Like that's just concept I understand, but I don't do because like there's this lack of motivation somehow. But now that I'm a coordinator, my motivation just like jumped. Like for example, a concept I like to talk about is like networking. I hated networking as a streamer. I did not like going up to talk to no network to, or like a partner or anyone, because I didn't want it to seem like I'm trying to leech off to them in any way.
Right.
So if a partner comes to talk to me, I'm like, oh hi, and I'm like 5 steps back because I don't want to come off weird. Versus as a coordinator, now I'm just like, no, let's network, let's make a show happen, talk to me, and I'm a lot more happy and motivated, and I think this works out a lot better for me.
Well, I think something that this also highlights, especially for those younger listeners at home, or really anyone who wants to, transition into the field of esports. A lot of times when someone's like, I want to work in esports, they think of on-camera talent, and they think of casters and the players, and that's it.
Right.
What people don't understand is there are so many different paths you can take, and yours is definitely one of them. Some of the best workers I worked with over in the Overwatch world were our tournament coordinators. They were busy. And it was a really, really tough gig. And then that person transitioned into a project management role for a AAA company, right? So it's really, really important to show, hey, it's not about just being on camera or playing for the camera, right? There are so many opportunities around esports, whether that be in production, content creation, project management. You know what I mean? And I think it's great to have you on to kind of represent all of those things, right? Because I think between us, we represent almost the entire industry outside of consulting. But it's just really cool to get all of those kinds of backgrounds. You put it into TFT, and that is grounds for germination of success. And that's it's something that I'm really excited about for the future.
Yeah, and you've got me, of course, as an example of what not to do in all of those roles, and someone's got to set the bad example, right? But that is great, and of course, you can check out a lot of these awesome stuff that Risa is doing over at the GiantSlayerTV YouTube. You can also I hear the voice actor there is just top notch. I don't know who it is, but it's they're great.
He sounds a lot like you, actually.
It's. I mean, I don't know. I don't assume it's 2020. I don't assume. But on that note, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back after these messages. Guys, if you are liking the show, please make sure you leave a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to us there, and you can subscribe to us and check us live on Twitch at twitch.tv/theblevins. Of course, the home of all of our content is at discord.me/littlelegendspodcast. If you want another way to support the show, head over to patreon.com/littlelegendspodcast and become a patron today. We've got all sorts of goals and tiers available, and we're open to suggestions as to what the other tiers should be. We'll be putting exclusive content. Videos, and other things on the Patreon, as well as giving you early looks at projects that we're working on. Head over to patreon.com/littlelegendspodcast right now. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the break. I know I sure did. We had a really great, not weird ASMR talk that you can only see during the live feeds, twitch.tv/theblevins on Tuesdays at 8. Make sure you're there. Join the Discord. We do all the announcements. We've got some interesting stuff here, and I pulled up this tweet that Mortdog actually put out earlier today as of this recording, and it was a graph of the popularity of 4-cost 2-star units at high ELO. And I'll post the link in the description so you can see it. But basically, it's just like you would imagine. It's a graph with a bunch of lines in descending order. And I don't know if you guys have taken a look at this or not, but I thought it was kind of interesting. That like we get a little bit of an insight as to what the team actually sees, and it's like, oh, you can start getting like super granular. Like you can like extrapolate this out, and like they can just look at anything in the game and have these stats. So when we're complaining about something being broken and they're like, well, it's really not that broken, now we kind of see, yeah, maybe they can see it. But I'll give the listeners a second here to make their predictions of what they think. So it's the 2-star 4-cost units in terms of popularity at high ELO. So take a second, those of you listening at home, and think about what you think Those are in order, and there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. See if you can name them in order. Okay. We'll go over that. But just looking at this, what did you guys sort of get from this? Was it interesting? Am I just going on about nothing? Am I just a nerd for thinking that stats are interesting?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I think one of the funniest things is just like how hard it feels like it is to get Olaf. But,
Right.
but obviously, I'm doing something wrong.
Also, for what it's
and
worth, Boop, we are not at high ELO. No matter what.
Yeah.
He didn't say what high ELO actually means, but I can guarantee you that we are not in it.
Yeah, Malphite makes sense. So for those at home, the order is, as I'm sure you've paused and given your prediction. Let's do it right now, right? Pause right now to give your prediction. Go.
Say it out loud and we'll hear you.
All right, so the top 10 is Malphite, then Twitch, and then it looks like it's tied with Ash and Yorick, and
It's
then
close.
Brandt. Annie will follow, and then Kha'Zix, Janna, Lucian, and then Olaf rounding out the rear. Never mind.
You really had to go there. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is like you said, like Olaf. When you're looking for him, man, does it seem like he's not there?
You know, it's so funny too because I remember what you said about Woodland Lux, and that has rung true for me every single time. By the way, every time I'm running something that's not Woodlands, I see Woodland Lux. Like every time. But when I'm running Woodlands, like that's when I'll see Cloud and Shadow Lux.
Yeah.
You know, those are the times.
In my last game, my Yasuo game that I got second place in, I saw Woodland Lux early, and I almost wanted to throw my game because I was very far ahead. Like I was on a huge win streak. I had
everything.
Yasuo, I had perfect items, and I saw the Woodland Lux, and I had no other Woodlands, and I'm like, I want to do it. If it was game night, I would have done it, but I didn't. But Risa,
So yeah,
out?
Risa. And using your top tier, you know, this graph is talking about you, and your other profiles.
Yeah, all of them.
There's just one other one.
So, like, does anything about this surprise you? And what would change the most if we looked at a low elo graph of the same thing, in your opinion?
Well, I think the key point here from Rymor's tweet is that this is popularity, not win rate.
True.
So what you say about that, for example, like Malphite was a little surprising at first, but seeing that statement makes a lot more sense because Malphite is only truly used in an Ocean Mage comp, and even then, maybe you take him out because Mountain loses his strength completely during the late game.
Right.
So in the very final comp, you'll rarely see a Malphite, but Malphite is a great big rock tank, and he provides great CC. So popularity-wise, I can definitely see why you would just have them in the front. And then next to that follows up, Twitch and Ash. Rangers is one of the top comps right now, so you just kind of pick up those two no matter what. If this was a popularity but not win rate for low elo, I wonder what it would be, honestly. I think we would see Yorick at the highest because I see a lot of hyper rolled lights players. So
I feel like Olaf would be way higher.
And Olaf would be way higher too. I don't see Berserkers at all in top elo lobbies anymore, but I think people still play them in like gold, silver.
Yeah, and then I think the ones that go down is Twitch. I think that's the one that probably goes down the most, in my opinion. If we're looking at a low elo, I could be wrong though. I'm taking this literally right out of my butt. Also, the name.
Yeah. Also, not literally. But this is interesting again because it is popularity and not win rate. I'm wondering because like if you think about this and you thought of these, I guess I'm getting way off the beaten path here. Still on topic, but off the beaten path. If you think of these as like stocks, for instance, like they're going up in popularity, which means like and like you said, Risa, Twitch and Ash are near the top. Malphite is number one, but Twitch and Ash are the next two that follow. Rangers is super, super popular right now. But that means that, and again, this ties back to our other conversation of it's super popular and it can get first place, but it's contested, right? So as this goes up in popularity, it's power level as a comp to go for kind of goes down because it's harder to do, right? If you get it, it's still strong, but in like when you're looking at it from like, I don't have anything, I'm going to go for this comp, it's actually weaker because it's harder to get. So something like Olaf, which is really low, is actually kind of, if it has the power to win in general, it actually, the power level goes up when its popularity goes down, because if you get something uncontested, it's better. Is this making any sense, or am I just blathering?
To
Yeah,
a
bro.
certain extent, I think Berserkers right now gets countered way too hard by the meta. So
It
it gets
does.
so Berserkers get countered by Rangers.
Yeah.
So that's just a simple matter of fact. So if you have 6 people going for Rangers and you're the only Berserker, yeah, you'll hit your Olaf 2 quicker than these 6 players hitting their Ash
Right.
2 and Twitch 2. But ultimately, you're not going to be first or second because there's 6 Rangers
Right.
and half of them will get their comp and
Someone's
half
gonna
of them
get
will
there,
beat
yeah.
you.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the idea why with Rangers being at the top, that means Olaf is going to be at the bottom because he's going to be
Mhm.
poking at this Ash for 30 seconds and then probably not get his ult off and die.
I like how you're thinking about it though, Lev. You got to think
Yeah.
about everything like that, right? Because
Yeah.
it's totally right in theory, yeah, but when you actually do successfully have the comp with all the other intangibles, what does that actually mean?
Right.
Mhm.
I think you're right. The big thing about Olaf is a low elo trap in regular League of Legends, so I would assume
Whoa.
that in also
I'm
in
an Olaf
TFT,
main, bro.
exactly. So in regular
That's a Brolaf
TFT,
skin.
yeah,
I do actually have
would
the
also
Olaf
be
skin.
a trap.
I definitely bought it.
But yeah, it's actually really interesting. I love stats like this. This is the type of stuff that I'm like I want to know per division which little legend has the highest win rate, because how funny would it be,
Okay, that is
If
right?
there was like a correlation.
Yeah, like how funny would it be if like for some reason in Diamond, like Fury Ring has like a 60% win rate in a lobby? Like, wouldn't that
That would
just
be
be
really.
funny,
That would be
right? Just to
hilarious.
know. I love stats like that. So more of this, por favor.
I want to see. I mean, I want to see this stuff. This is the type of stuff that I know, in having watched so much of Mort's streams and having talked to him, I know a lot of this they won't show us and can't show us and don't want to show us, because like seeing something like this again, like even just my like first level thinking of it is like, oh well, I know in general Olaf is not being gone for. Like, not just anecdotally, I know for a fact it's super uncommon. So I can like change my thinking. It's almost like insider trading, which is why I kind of thought of it like stocks. It's like, oh well, I know at my ELO that no one is going Olaf. I have the stats to show that. I have the insider trading. I can buy Olafs. They're super cheap right now. And
But maybe no one's going Olaf because it's bad.
right.
You know?
And I think that is possible, but also there is somewhat like there's a breaking point for it, and that you wouldn't be able to look at just one graph potentially. There's a breaking point because like yes, maybe Olaf gets countered by Rangers, but what if you get Olaf 3 super early, or if you're easily able to get Olaf 3? Like, can Olaf 3? I don't know what the answer to that is in this specific scenario, but you can see where like even a weaker champion, a weaker 4-cost champion, if you can get it 4-cost or 3-starred, maybe that makes a difference.
Chances of that are incredibly low, though, to 3-star
Sure.
your. Even if no one ever goes for a comp,
Right.
chances of you 3-star
Yeah,
epic
I
is
mean,
extremely low.
it's kind of like, oh, you could win $1 million if you bet it all on black. Right? You totally could. There's the option.
I mean,
There's definitely
maybe.
merit going for a comp that is lower popularity. I think in this case scenario, it's not the best example due to the fact that Ranger's so popular and it's a
Right.
direct counter. But if it's, so for example, using Kha'Zix, I think Kha'Zix is a really good example here.
Yeah.
Is that like I think Desert is pretty strong in the meta right now, and
Mhm.
Kha'Zix is a great early to mid game unit. And I would honestly capitalize on Kha'Zix a lot more. It seems like this is something that might be easier to hit.
Mhm.
And although I still won't use it for any late game comp, I think Kha'Zix eventually will fall off due to the Rangers and slash crystals.
Crystal is
I think
tough
they
for him.
could carry me for during the mid game spike
Mhm.
tremendously. Versus Olaf, you don't sell your Olaf or you don't use it for mid game and then sell it for late game.
Right.
So I think that's the difference. So I think
Yeah.
using that logic though, like going for a unit like Kha'Zix could be really good. Or Annie even. Annie's in the
Mhm.
mid tier as well. Annie's a unit that you honestly you can buy. If you have the gold for it, buy her plop her down. She
Mhm.
throws out a bear and
She's
they
2
tank for
units.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's basically 2 units, and so she does a great job for your mid power spike as well. So I sometimes would tier to her, keep her there for a bit. It's just about the timing of making sure to delete and sell those units off
Mhm.
for your final comp.
Right. Yeah, super interesting to me, and I
Mhm.
hope that this discussion, if Mort hears it, is inspiring him to give us more insights and not being like, oh God, they're onto us. We can't show anything now. I still want to see I mean, it's less interesting now because so much time has gone by, but I want to see like what the number of tier 3 5 cost units in ranked games has been, like total. Like, because I've only ever seen one happen in the wild, and it was on Dog Stream in set 1. I haven't seen a single. I mean, I've seen people post on Reddit, but
Right.
that's such a
No,
huge.
Do you think the
sample size.
number at this point in time is over or under 1,000? Do you think
Probably
there's
over.
been more?
The-
Give it about 10,000.
well,
no, I say
I
it's under, honestly. I
well-
think like the only post we see is that's all there is.
well,
Like-
you know, I thought the same thing, and then I asked like this is a while ago, so maybe, but I was talking in Mort's chat about this and like thinking about it, and he basically like made me think more about the scope of like how many like X million players playing is, like how many games that actually is. I'm like, oh, I'm probably just underestimating like how many games of TFT are actually being played.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of like we're gonna go gambling again, hitting the jackpot on a slot machine, right? Like how many people pull those handles? I don't know. I think I don't think it's that high because when he answered, I remember he
Let's
was like,
see,
"I don't
million.
actually know, but I would assume because of the number of games."
No,
but for something like this, it was.
I think he did
I-
know.
I'm pretty sure
I don't
he
remember
didn't.
I don't remember the answer. Mort, if you're listening to this, tag us on Twitter and let us know.
I think there's also the concept that in a ranked game, though, people will not go for a
Right.
3-star fight
Yeah, in a
because it's
ranked
too
game,
costly, right?
In
So
a
it's just
ranked game, I
normal
think it's
games we're
under.
talking about too.
In a ranked game, I think it's under 1,000. But man, I don't know because I keep thinking like so if it was a
Anyway,
million.
we'll talk about it later.
that'd
That's
be-
something to noodle on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be 1% of games if there's 1,000 for every million games. So it's like, I don't
think
know.
it's less than 1%.
Yeah, but well, that
honestly.
there's more than a million games. Doesn't matter. Well, maybe we'll get that answer someday. It's just an interesting, silly little thing. But in the vein of the patches that we've the patch that we've been talking about, and actually these past few patches, we've talked about on the show and just kind of gotten a sort of a general consensus from most people. I know there's always seems like the top players they jump to conclusions very quickly in terms of what they like or don't like about a patch. But we've talked about in general, at least from our perspective, that these last few patches have just been fantastic for TFT. It's felt really good. It's felt like there's a lot of options. Now we've had a couple of outliers, Sivir and Friends, Blender and whatnot, but like outside of those few outliers, these last few patches have felt really, really good. And I'm curious, Risa, what your thoughts are on these past few patches, maybe set 2 in general in terms of balance for the game and how you've enjoyed playing it and viewing it.
For me, I think these couple of patches definitely was a much better balance compared to what you just mentioned, Blender and Sivir and Friends. I have to be honest though that I do think set 1 was better than set 2.
Ooh.
Set
That's
2
a hot
was
take.
going Set 2 was going towards the right direction. There was soft counters, which is a great idea, bigger board space. I think these are great stuff. And also, again, not doing huge changes where it just like destroys the meta, but just a little like a couple of viewers told me how they feel like the patterns were a lot easier to understand. And I think that's a great point. It's not like suddenly changing abilities and switching this up. 10 more synergies on this patch, etc.
Right.
However, why I like set 1 over 2 better is due to the fact that set 1 things were simplistic in the fact that you can see everything in the board.
Right.
One little position matters so much to me, and then I can see what every single unit is doing. And there's spectacles, right? Like a Nari suddenly jumping, smashing half my board, which is like, oh my god, like that kind of reaction. Here, I'm just kind of like, oh, my Malphite booped them. cool. Like it's just a
Yeah,
little bit,
the only
but-
one who like really gives you that same feeling of like a big Sedge ult or that Gnarled is Vigard when you get to Machine Gun.
And
Oh,
Lux,
yeah,
too.
Right? That's like
your
the only one
3-star.
really. Yeah.
Right.
There was a little bit of Zed at the beginning when we like Shojin Seraph and he was just like cloning all over the place. But like
That's
there was
true.
really a lack of that in set 2.
That was your Fight Night debut, wasn't it?
Oh, that
Where you
was
had a
one of
million-
the
It
yes.
was you versus Sphinx with the million Zeds.
Yo.
And he was running
He
Blender
had-
before it
he
was
running
Blender.
Eggroll. He ran Eggroll
Egg-
with
yeah.
Renekton 3, and I
Oh,
ran
that's right.
Bajillion Zed against his
Yes.
Eggroll.
Yeah, and that's actually something that Moore talked about when he was on the podcast. Was it was an intentional choice to move away from like the Cho'Gath, Gnar, Sejuani. Like there's too much of that in set 1.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I think for set 2, it just feels a little underwhelming. It feels a little bit more, character to character rather than things reaching a map wide kind of state. Right. And I think that's something that they're definitely going to fix going into the next set, because it sounded like he was very aware of it. And the way that I think he was talking about it means that we're definitely going to get some of those ults back. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, so he did make a post that said he's gonna put back more spectacle kind of ults. More.
Yeah.
Another complaint of set 2, I would say though, is there's too much. There's Inferno Hexes burning all over the place. You have Sire plants in one corner, and then apparently those plants could have been targeted. We found out like 3 patches in, and it's just all over the place. And with summoners as well. Like you have like 4 Yorick units here. Like it's just not fun to analyze.
It's like there's less map wide ultimates, fantastical ultimates, but for you it's harder to read, even though there's less of that. That's interesting.
It's a lot more RNG too, because it's not like these burns are always in the same spots. It's like they're just randomly burning enemies everywhere. And also the concept, they fixed this bug, but like they always change their targets as well. So for example, even Krugs, you put one unit there, sometimes it targets the left unit and sometimes it would target the right unit. And that's something that didn't happen in set 1. Set 1 is you position this way, it would always go for like the Gnar in front. It would always go for this unit in front. Here, it's like a random 50% chance of RNG. If my unit will go for this person or that person, sometimes it turns left, sometimes it turns right, even though same exact positioning as before. And that's another concept I dislike, because that's playing more towards RNG rather than a calculated positioning and then being like 50% now. Like we'll see if he turns left or right.
Yeah, so for set 3, would you like to go back to a smaller map, or do you want to see more kind of fantastical ultimates come back with a mixture of set 2? What would you, if you were to create the perfect set 3 for you as a player, don't care about anyone else, right? No one else matters.
Yeah.
What would that look like?
So I would keep the bigger board space, but they would need to go in and define these ults to be much more direct and linear. So I hope like with Space and Aussie, it's not like half the map randomized will suddenly glow or something. Like,
I have
would
a theory.
hate that.
I actually have a theory, and it was brought up by a joke that I forget whose, but someone said that like asteroids would hit the map or something like that. But I actually think you could be. I think you could be right. Like I think maybe the way that the map might get effective is random hexes get taken away.
See, that's
one of like it's going to be one. It's like one of the only kind of thoughts that I haven't seen them use yet, right? In terms of how to affect like RNG, like the elemental.
That's my worst
nightmare.
I can't.
Different.
I don't think they would do that.
But like if they were to take hexes away or add characters that block hexes, that will maybe cause people to like walk around a certain.
Maybe that one might be more.
I
okay.
could see that. I don't think you take away hexes because
we have some of that stuff, because like Trundle in League of Legends puts up a pillar and you have to like walk around it. And I was thinking that could be something in the game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe taking away random hexes with the thought of forcing different positioning every map as opposed to getting set based on your comp.
They would have to make it so it's not randomized. So it would be like he puts a hex, or sorry, he destroys a hex right in front of him.
Or something like that.
Random hex.
If interaction with hexes like that, I could see them doing at some point, but that's my gut. I have no idea, but I feel like in terms of if I were a designer, I'd like to try that out and see how that like affected the game. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm not a designer.
I think randomness needs to be controlled as the main key point. For example, people started hating set 2 more because they kept calling Talia and Malphite the Phantoms.
Yeah.
And then also with Azir, there's a Reddit post which I actually freaking love, where there's a 3-star Azir, and just so happened the second he ulted, they went on the 3-star Kog'Maw, or it just instantly got destroyed within like 0.1 second.
Yep.
And that's just like a terrible feeling where it's just like, if it targeted my Kog'Maw, I lose. If it targeted anything else, I could have won. And so that all feels like Phantom to me, right? So
yeah. The counter, well, part of the counter to that is like the inverse of that is Yasuo, right? It's like the Yasuo just always targets the best unit. Like,
but that's why we like Yasuo, because it says that it will always
Okay.
target, so we can
Right,
play
'cause you
around
can
it with
play around it.
itemization.
That's
yeah,
fair.
Azir is just random. Like we get unlucky if
Yeah.
it goes for our 3-star or
that is fair.
Blevins.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it strikes me that they want to keep some sort of map randomness, right? Because even in
Mhm.
regular League of Legends, even with the elementals, right, changing that up. So if that's the direction they're going, that's like, I think literally like the first idea someone had probably in that meeting was, let's take hexes away, let's expand the map space, but take, instead of elemental hexes giving you something, let's just take that away and see how it affects, because everyone behind that hex would also have to walk around it.
Right.
I don't know. And based on your synergies and origins might work around that kind of thing too. But
yeah, like if there's like
could be cool.
assassin, the
And also
assassin type
super
class can
frustrating.
like hover over those blank spaces or something. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Or yeah, maybe there's like a floating class, right?
Right.
or a flying class. But yeah, that actually is a really good follow-up question to that, Rissa, is if you were to create an origin or a class, like for Blev, it's the beard class, right? For me, it's I want to see Heart Seekers. I finally decided, because there's a skin line called Heart Seeker, which is like Valentine's Day themed, and I just don't know what that would be, but that would be fun. What about you? What would you kind of like to see, a type of fantasy in the game for you that you haven't seen quite yet?
Think like Zillion and something with time would be pretty
Ooh.
fun. I'm scared to say more because I feel like it would be RNG related, and that would just, as a player, probably destroy me. But something with like just a single, something like Blitzcrank, where it's just like a robot, like immediately from the start, something happens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually probably bring up missing Blitzcrank more than any other unit.
I
Yeah,
love
like okay,
Blitzcrank.
that is a spectacle from a 2-cost unit, and is there a 2-cost unit now besides Yasuo that has a lower spectacle? No, right? And even with Yasuo, it's just very particular too. It's not even that big of a spectacle, to be honest.
I mean, the volley bear bug that Mort exploited on his stream was a pretty spectacle. But
the bears were fun. A few patch: Demon Bear, Assassin Bear.
I
the old volley bear. Well, that old volley bear was 3 cost. I'm talking about the one
the
from
new
this,
volley bear.
from this.
Was there a new bug?
It was on, I think it was only on PBE, and it was only for a little bit, but it was literally, if you put a death cap on, I don't know. I think the only reason the death cap was relevant is because it would one-shot things, but you get a volley bear, and when he would ult, if he would kill someone, and his ult normally resets, like it gives you mana and resets, it would have infinite range. So you'd put a death cap on it. So he'd go, he'd attack, ult, crunch, kill, reset, just like start machine gunning from across the map, just crunch, 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 crunch. I think Mort actually put a video up on his YouTube. It's actually pretty funny.
That's awesome.
That got fixed real quick. But yeah, 2 cost. I'm trying to think that. Yeah, Yasuo is probably the only one that comes to mind that has any sort of. Oh, I mean, there's always, of course,
ready for battle.
We've got Jax, of course, but he's not really a spectacle.
Jack just spins a little bit.
He does. So I was thinking about it, because you guys are saying, and Mort has said it, and a lot of people have said it, that Sejuani ult, Cho'Gath ult, these big spectacle alts, and it's like, we kind of, I think the part of it isn't the fact that it like stuns a big portion of the map, because we have that now, because like Malphite kind of does that, and Amumu definitely does that, right? He has a huge ult that, but it's
Taric,
super
the 5 costs.
Taric, it's super quick, right? It's like Amumu just goes foop, and then things are stunned. Whereas like Cho'Gath, it's like the circle comes out and it's like, oh, the circle, wait for it, and then boom, and then Sejuani is like, oh, it's coming down. I'm wondering, and this is I have no idea if there's any credence to this at all. If it's like it's not the fact that you're stunning multiple people or you're affecting multiple units, it's the build up to it. That is really
animation.
Yeah,
I think is
yeah.
two key point. Because even Dota Auto Chess, have you guys ever experienced playing
Yes.
that?
I do.
So
Yeah.
there's the Kunkka with the giant
Yes,
ship
the
just coming
ship.
from across, and then it's just a little
Yes.
fun. So just
You
that
hear the
concept.
bell,
Yeah,
right?
you hear
Ding,
the
ding.
bell. Like there's just so much going on that you're like, it's coming, and
Yeah.
like you get so excited for it. And I think that's what we like here. Like our ult is cool. Like it is a stun. It's like circular, but then it went whoop, and then
Yeah.
it's done. So
Yeah. Umu could be so
you just
much
kind of
more.
want. I think you want to like feel. I think for you,
yeah,
you
you
want
want
to
to
like
feel it.
Yeah.
right? And I think that's just good design. I think they did a really good thing in terms of cleaning up some of the interactions in this set because they do have so many synergies. But this set did feel cleaner in a sense of you might have had a harder time reading the fights, but in terms of character per character, the map, they definitely grew in terms of what their design philosophies are looking like and how intentional they're going to be. And I really do think that this third set's really going to show all of that growth and how they've decided to really push the game because set 3 is big, right? It's pretty much TFT2, right? Because it's coming out on mobile and mobile is going to increase the player base by so much, right? And it's going to open up streaming opportunities and professional opportunities, and just because because more of us have phones and computers, just more and more people are going to play. So set 3 has to slap if TFT is gonna survive. And I think set 2 and set 1 are perfect learning examples to where, knowing what I know of more how we've talked and the rest of the team, I feel pretty confident that set 3 is going to be pretty epic, that we are going to get almost everything that we asked for, maybe except the spectator client, which will come a moment later.
Except for the one thing that we absolutely want.
I don't know. You guys could disagree with me, but I think set 3, I'm really, really excited for it because
I'm so nervous about it. There's excitement, like you said. Like I feel like they took in everything, all that they learned, what
this
we
is their
wanted.
final exam, right?
Yes.
Or for the semester. This
But
is their
then-
final for the semester.
Yeah.
I just know like set 2 scared away so many players too. Like obviously it brought in a lot more, but set 2 was just like there's so much you relearn again. But at least set 2, it was about elementals. That's easy. Fire burns, like it was concept we understood.
Yeah.
This one's space, stars, and Odyssey, and I'm not like I like sci-fi and all, but I'm like nervous about.
I love sci-fi. Like Space and Odyssey speaks directly to me.
Oh,
and that's actually a really interesting kind of question for the design team. It's just like sci-fi is in space has always been kind of like an alienating type of genre.
Is that pun intended? Space
no,
and
actually,
aliens?
it wasn't. Kind of like in the movie world, like horror, right? There are just some people who don't watch it.
Right.
And so I wonder like
That's
how
true.
theming does affect player base in that way, right? That your perception of what's going on might be affected based on just the theming, right? Because I was watching a stream the other day and he said, we literally lost players because there were no more Yordles. Right?
Yeah.
For TFT, that's something that you're just going to have to deal with, every other set or so.
Yeah.
Right? That like in Hearthstone, a Priest just isn't good, so I just won't play for a month. And thank God Priest is good, because I think Hearthstone's at its worst place when Priest is good. But in terms of TFT, like, yeah, I think you guys know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the fear. Like, would it alienate it? Or it's not a pun, but
And is it their job? Is it their job to like make sure that everyone likes every set, right? That is it okay for you to say, okay, well, I'm not a big fan of sci-fi. I might take a little bit of a break this set, but next set I might come back anyway, right? And juggle players like that. I'm sure that's something to think about, but I'm interested to see what the philosophy.
Would it be better to not have a theme? Because set 1 technically didn't have a theme, right? It was just all over the place. There's spatials, then there's nice. And I think that concept is a lot less scarier than, at least for me. When I hear a space theme, I don't know why part of me like freezes up a little. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so worried now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel that way for space, but I'm just trying to think if it was like a horror, like you mentioned, people don't like horror movies. I don't particularly like horror movies. If there's like a horror theme set, I mean,
like fiddlesticks, like.
I feel like that would probably be pretty cool. I like the theming of it. I like I think honestly that the elements are kind of boring. It's like, okay, water, great, cool.
Playing is safe.
It is playing it safe, and
Right.
I personally don't want them to do that. Now, I think, after seeing sort of the reception from set 2 in terms of, like you said, Risa, I had the same experience where my friends told me, hey, I loved set 1. It was great. And I'm sure set 2 is great, but I don't want to learn a new game. Like, it's a new game coming out every time they release a set. And we talked about this before on previous episodes of like maybe a different way or to release sets to have a little bit more overlap. But regardless of that, like just a new set coming out is very scary for me as someone who's creating content and wants to promote the community, because people are going to leave the game and stop the game. Hey, we've been playing for 4 months on set 2, and now everything's gone. There's not even elemental hexes, and now there's this new asteroid
Everything
thing,
is
and
different.
everything is completely different. It's like, yeah, I know how to buy units, but like, it's like, what if set 3, go through this thought experiment. What if set 3 was just Dota Underlords? Like, I mean, the game is different, right? But like, it's the same in a lot of ways. It's still, and like the new set is Dota Underlords. Now you got to go play Dota Underlords for set 3. It's like, yeah, I kind of don't want to learn that. Like, for a while when TFT first came out, like I was kind of alternating, because I'd be like, I really liked Dota Auto Chess, and I was playing the Drota version on my phone and whatnot, and it's like, I'll keep up with it, but then it's like, I got really into TFT, and I go back, I like take some time off of Dota Underlords, and I go back, and I'm like, I don't like, why is Venomancer a 1 cost now? It's like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. It's like, and that's the sort of feeling that people have, and we're blinded in a little bit because we're creating content and we're on top of it at all times for everything, but a lot of people aren't like that.
Yeah, you put in all this work and effort, and then all of a sudden it doesn't feel like it matters anymore, right? Because the new set's the great equalizer. It's the opportunity for new players to come in and feel like they're on more even footing, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when it's like if you're playing regular league when your champion gets picked to get reworked, right? It's really scary for a similar reason, right? It's just you don't know how it's gonna end up, you don't know how it's gonna go, and after they change it, is the core playing philosophy even still the same, right? Because you gotta make sure that they still like playing that character, right? That's why a lot of people who play Volibear are scared for that rework specifically, right? And so that definitely goes in, but in the end, I think having a theme makes marketing a lot easier.
That's true.
Right? And just saying, oh, look at these cool things, because for this third one, I think visuals are going to be so important because they have to bring people in, and people aren't going to be listening all the time to a commercial or bring it in. They're going to see someone streaming it, and if the game looks cool, they might download it, or they might come and play, right? And so I think that's why for this particular set, a theme is good. It'll be hard, maybe in set 6 or 7, to maybe continue it. It might be kind of like forcing it at that time, but as of right now, I think of where we're at, I think a little Calamity might be nice as like kind of like, because it's still in beta, right?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I never even thought about that before. We are still in beta for TFT.
Yeah, exactly. So why not go crazy, right? Like and that's something I like, and I'm cool with alienating some people for 2 or 3 months if it's not their jam, but if they don't lose the core playing philosophy of the auto battler, I think they can really try whatever, because no one's really defined exactly how this is supposed to play anyway.
That's true. And honestly, I think once we do go official, now you mentioned the beta part, I need a client to ourselves that is not League of Legends. Like a Runeterra client, but one for TFT, that would make my day.
They had no idea it would be this successful, but I'm sure now that they know, things might be in the works.
I don't know if that's happening or not. I feel like Mort has talked about that a bit, and I don't remember him saying that. It's
probably not anytime soon. But
I think a lot of what he's said in that regard, and a lot of what he even probably knows, and it just hasn't been thought about, is like all of it is prefaced on like mobile first, and then we'll talk. So that makes sense.
Yeah, we got to get mobile out. That's the most important thing, and it's the most important thing for all of us. But do you know what the most important question is?
I mean, I do, Boop, but why don't you ask it anyway?
So I mean, so you got to get your thinking cap. This is super philosophical. Which little legend tastes the best?
Fua.
If you had to eat, if you had to eat one of the little legends, which one do you think would taste the
A
best?
Fua, is
It's
that
easy,
this
Fua.
is it's very straightforward. There's a pig in the game.
If you're gonna pick the Fua, I have to count her. I have to
No,
count her.
don't.
Okay, and
Don't
Blev
bring
and
this
Blev knows
up.
what I'm gonna count.
I know
here.
you
The
are, and I'm
Fua-
gonna.
Yes.
the Fua is sad, and so I don't think the meat is going to
Oh
taste
my
as good as something like the Fury Horn or even the Paddlemar. You know,
All I'm saying
I
is
don't want
that
to eat a happy animal, but that actually sounds
exactly.
but don't you think
Exactly.
that a happier
You're
animal
taking
will
an animal
taste
while it's
better?
having a happy life. You're taking a
Okay,
little legend.
okay,
It's
okay,
happy.
let's-
It just got the sword on
let's
the opening
take the
carousel
eat-
that you wanted, and then you're like, you know what? This is gonna be a tasty, happy little legend. Let's kill it and eat
I
it right
think
now.
the meat will be more tender, right? Because
I don't
they
know
were
about
happier
that,
doing more
no.
exercise and stuff like
When
that.
I see a
It's not
happy
like-
animal, I'm not like, the meat must be more tender, nor like when you're sad, you know? Like,
no, but like when I see a cow, right? They're like, okay, these cows are both gonna die anyway, so
Let's
how
kill
do
the
you
one that's
judge by
having a
its
good
progress?
life.
Yeah.
Let's kill the one that's enjoying life right now instead of the one that's not.
well, it's gonna get cooked and eaten anyway, right? So might as well. Well, you really don't think a happier animal, if you take the ethos and emotion out of it, that a happier animal would taste better than a sad one.
I think you're just biased against whatever chemicals and adrenaline and whatnot is produced by stress. I think you're just biased. You're just taste biased against those things. I don't know what adrenaline
Just for
tastes
me,
like.
happiness is not a criteria for my testing of food.
It's like that episode.
That's the real answer.
Have you ever
folks.
seen that episode of Portlandia where they go to the like fresh to farm restaurant and they're like
Yeah,
asking
oh
about the
yeah,
chicken?
and for the chicken,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
and then they end up joining a cult.
joining
on
a
the
cult.
farm.
Yeah, I mean that,
Yeah.
that goes off the rails like many Portlandia skits
To
do.
be
But
fair, though, one of the little legends is literally named Dango, which means cake in Japan. Like it's it's literally a Japanese dumpling, is what he is.
Yeah.
So-
So
and
we
he's super
were
happy.
we were also thinking about that one because he eats so many other things.
He
right?
is literally
So-
a food.
Yeah.
Like,
So
Dango's
like,
great.
he's also flavored with other food and potentially other little legends.
That's scary.
know? And
actually.
so I think like you age that. The other one that you have to kind of, I think, what was the other one? The rock that kind of looks like a Kinder egg.
not the rock, the
No,
bird,
no.
the bird,
The bird.
That
yeah.
looks like a
Oh,
Kinder
the
egg.
talker?
the
Yeah.
talker.
Why would
Yeah,
you want to eat that thing?
No, because
Ugh.
Something could be inside.
yeah, it's like there's like a
Crack it open.
creamy filling inside. It's like it's like a kid.
I would never look at talker the same no more. Crack it open and creamy inside chocolate.
Hey,
Yeah, it's
if
like an
you're-
Easter
if you're
egg.
one of those, if you're a hydro hobie, then you can just go with the river sprite.
Yeah, just drink a nice glass of River Sprite.
I can see the river sprite being nice, relaxing, refreshing.
I wonder if
Yeah.
I want a sparkling River Sprite. That's what I want as a little legend. Like I want it to
now
be called sparkling.
I feel
River
such
Sprite.
carnivores now that I want to play TFT and just look at all little legends like food. Like that's
It's so funny. The second you start thinking about it, you're like, wow, a lot of these could be food.
Also, you get way more excited about the new ones that come out. So
Yeah, because eventually we'll have like a real tier list out. Because like there's some that just like won't taste good. Like none of the KDA ones will taste good.
What?
I
Yeah.
think they're too
Oh
like
man.
personified.
Well, man, we'll
I
save.
mean, I was
I was gonna say we'll save the conversation that came up about Kiki at game night when when we started with this conversation, and it just got dark after that when you find out what people do with chinchillas, which Kiki is.
oh my.
Oh yeah, a lot of people eat them. A lot of
No,
people eat them.
no, it's not. It's not eating. You're thinking of guinea pigs. It's.
I
not
am thinking
eating.
of guinea pigs. I am
It's-
thinking of guinea pigs.
All I'll
right.
say is pelts is what
Mm.
all I'll say is that a very like expensive chinchilla fur coat takes like 60 chinchilla pelts. So
Oh,
when you're
All
yeah,
right, let's talk
that's
about something else.
Yeah,
On a happier thing.
on a
So
happier
you-
note,
so
set 3 is coming.
After all of that, after all of the details and the arguments presented at you, are you willing to stand by your initial choice of
yes.
the Fua being the
It's
tastiest
because
little
it's the
legend of them
obvious
all?
choice, Boop. It's easy. Bacon.
I think the Fury Horn's actually pretty high up
Why,
there.
why would you
Uh,
even Fury Horse like a dog or like a cat?
Or like I kind of consider it more like a goat. And the
A fairy
Silverwing.
horn?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Silverwing's probably really high up there too.
Silverwing is going to be the safe choice. Fua is also a pretty safe choice.
Paddlemar is a safe-ish.
No.
Paddlemar is an
Turtle
exquisite
Done
choice.
a lot of yeah. Like Swallow's Nest.
Wait, what?
I thought we were going for a happier topic.
Let's go for we fell into Boop's trap. You've activated my trap card, Pharaoh. And a Yu-Gi-Oh voice reference is our cue to wrap up the show because that's when we know we've gone off the rails. Striving Light, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for everything you're doing in the community. The floor is yours. Sell out, shout out, do what you will. Tell the people where they can find you and what they should be looking out for.
Thank you. So they call me Risa, but all my social medias is striving_light. I stream TFT, but honestly, I am loving my job as a coordinator for GiantSlayerTV. Jules, don't fire me. I said the name. So make sure to check that out. My streams are very chill. I play TFT, but honestly, we just talk about your day, any topic at all, controversial. So we can talk about eating fuwas all day as well. But yes, if you guys are interested in TFT and tournaments, definitely check out GiantSlayerTV. We have a lot of big news and big shows coming. So that is twitch.tv/GiantSlayerTV. And I hope to see you guys there.
Newly affiliate, by the way.
Yes, we just got
I
affiliated.
think I was the first sub, by the way.
On Thursday, we are having Soju compete along with Asik, the #1 EU player, Snoose, the number 6 EU player. Half our lobby's EU on Thursday, which is surprising because it's an 8 p.m. CT time slot with top 10s. And then we have people like Soju and much more. So Thursday's lobby's going to be hype, but I just want to put that out there for fight night.
Big games coming at Fight Night,
Yep.
and we will make sure you're there live. But if you're not, we will certainly, you'll be able to check out the VOD on Giant Slayer TV, and we will talk about the tournament next week here. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this episode number 27 for the Legends Podcast. Boop, where can people find you on the internet?
At Bupasaurus Rex at twitter.com. Find me there. We'll talk about tasty things outside of Little Legends.
Yes, we'll talk about other tasty delicacies. And you can find the show on Twitter at LIL Legends Pod. Again, best place to find myself, Boop, Risa as well, discord.me/Legends Podcast. That is where the community lives. Game nights on most Fridays, not this upcoming Friday because of Valentine's Day, but I will put the details of when that is going to be rescheduled in the Discord. Make sure you're there. That is going to be it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Shout outs again to Striving Light for coming on and doing so many great things in the community. But for our guest, Striving Light, for Boob, I am the Blevins, and we will see you guys next week to talk about some more team fight tactics. Bye.